So we got this message, and it says this man was sick and rushed to the hospital by 11 p.m. After stabilizing him, the man's brother asked his wife to return home to be with the children for the night. By 2 a.m., the man died, and his brothers drove his corpse to the village in Abia without informing the wife. The wife just learned this morning that her husband died and his corpse is somewhere in his village in Abia State. She's been screaming her lungs out and crying her eyes out. And I think apparently the man has been buried without any information to the wife. So initially when I saw Abia, I was thinking, okay, does this just happen in Igbo land? But somebody else replied and said, I'm not Igbo. I did marry an Igbo man as well. My own husband, died 15 years ago until today. My daughter and I don't know where he was buried. He was buried without us. We are both Yoruba. So this sort of treatment that is meted out to wives, after the passing of their husband is not peculiar to a particular tribe, but it happens. And that opens up the sort of conversation as how do we begin to protect ourselves as wives, as women, if after marriage, so when you are dating, they will say you don't have any, there's no link, you are just dating, you are not married, there's no covenant covering you. And so you can be treated anyhow. If anything happens, they say, okay, auntie, carry your bag and go to your father's house or just leave. But now that you're married, you're supposed to be protected under the covenant of marriage. And something like this happened, and family members also deem it fit to treat you in such a manner. How do we begin to even change the mindset of some of these family members, in-laws, men, women, everywhere? Please help me. How do we do this?
Well, the truth is, sometimes it's not even about like a culture that determines that that's how a woman should be treated. God just help you that you don't get married into a family of just wicked people. Because sometimes, I've heard stories of a person that passes and this happens, and they'll be like, if it had happened the other way around, it would not have happened. That this is happening because a particular person is that way inclined, or just has a sort of negative feeling towards, the spouse that has been left behind. We can only talk, and we just keep talking to people to always remember to be kind, to always remember to be respectful, of all the people involved. And then the fact that as a country, we have a constitution, we have bodies that sort of give support to, we should have strengthened institutions that give support to families that go through this at such a time. The sad things that may have happened, but they need to be able to find a place that they can go and get redress, and on time. The redress that does not cost them so much. Because sometimes when we deal with these family issues, it will be in court for so many years. People have even moved on, and the impact is just so far-reaching, and sometimes people don't even want to go through that process. But if we can have our institutions that make it easy, to solve issues like that. But the truth is, it only comes from a place of unkindness. It comes from a place of just lack of empathy for what someone else is going through.
Just painful.
Okay, so it doesn't necessarily have to be seen from a place of lack of empathy. Sometimes when you are discerning, you understand people's ways of doing things. When my father died, my mom never saw him. The last she saw him was when he walked out of the house and said, I want to see my doctors, I'll be back.
Okay.
When he died, some people advised that, we take him back home because he was a scholar, his students should do the janaza. And I kept saying, if he dies here and is shot out to the cemetery where he should be buried, why do I have to go back home and then back? So my siblings agreed with me. I insisted we all sat together. Just 5 of us, no extended family member with us. We agreed. We informed our uncles, and we took our dad to the grave. So my mom till tomorrow keeps wondering, where did you bury my husband? But that was her father. And I thought it was better for her to not see him because they were a monogamous relationship for over 40 years.
But did you have a conversation with her? Did she know the day of the burial?
He was buried immediately, he died. We informed family members to be with her before it was announced. Okay. And by the time we got home, they had announced to her. We don't want her...
It's a different situation.
I'm just explaining. I'm using that as an example. I'm coming somewhere. Sometimes... When I was dating, there was a person I was dating, and his mom was just gisting with me and said, in our own family compound, was from the same village as well, said, when you are married to us, you stop eating bushmeat. And it didn't make sense, But when you learn to respect the way, because those kind of people cannot come and do something to you tomorrow, you will surprise will come and catch you. Because people have their ways, and they whatever they do, they have their rationale for doing it. You know, so but people don't learn anymore. You meet one person, you fall in love with that person. You say, okay, no, we're now in a modern world. I'm only in love with you. You don't know where he's from, his background, his ways. You don't know. I'm presently married to somebody from Ugbe family in Benin. Their family migrated from that place. That's where Zibiri's family is from. As a first son, I cannot claim tomorrow and say, I didn't bury my father and do the traditional rites, but I did for my father-in-law. In support of my husband, I stood by his side as first son. I cannot come and say, no, this is what we do here. When it comes to me, respect my Islamic rules. When it comes to my husband, he has some rights to perform on his father's side. I stood by his side. So I'm just trying to explain that sometimes when you marry in isolation, shocks will be coming. Because I love that somebody responded that person was from Ekiti. And we see these cultures clashing every time. These days, young girls, we just read Mills and Booms and fall in love. We don't study people's backgrounds, how their practices are. Sometimes it's practice. When I was in school, there was a young man from a Yoruba tribe, I always say here. I said no, because I've seen too much of that tribe's practices against women, and I didn't want to experience it in my life. No matter how much he came to my faculty, I just kept saying, I will marry you now. Before I know, I'm learning and relearning too many things. I don't want to live that kind of lifestyle. So maybe girls should be advised now. If you marry somebody from the general, maybe the most common Onitsha, which is more modern, you will say you have seen all of Igbo. When you move into Abia Ebonyi, you will shock. Even dialects are different.
Yeah.
Over the weekend, we were talking about Edo being the confusion state of all the Southwest. Because in Edo alone, if I cross into Edo now, somebody will be talking, I can't hear anything. If the Akoko Edos are talking, if maybe some common words, I won't hear anything. Amongst the Afemai cultures, if I say spoon in one way, they will say spoon in another way. So even languages differ. So take time to study the people whose bloodline, ancestry and behavior your children will be carrying.
Okay, so Nima, I hear you loud and clear, right?
Yes.
But how do we begin to change these disrespectful practices? No, hold on. I'm going somewhere. There are expectations that people would have, even if you marry into the devil's culture, and you as a woman loses your husband, even if you're not allowed to go there and see where he's buried for, you must be aware. You will be carried along. They will tell you, you are performing your rights. You know, I remember when my grandfather died, and my grandmother was put in, you know, these rooms where they shave off their head. And I was with her at the time when this was happening. But she knew all of the activities. She wasn't there because a wife is not supposed to see it. No, hold on now. But she knew, she was carried along. In this matter,
the wife is not supposed to see.
They did not tell her.
Wait now.
They carried this man back to the village. No, hold on. Buried the man, and she was not told anything going forward. That's what we're talking about. So this is a disrespectful.
You just made the point yourself.
Okay, go ahead.
For every tradition, there's a rationale. You wanted to say the wife is not supposed to see. You didn't finish that.
Yes, even if the wife is not supposed to see,
it is not a disrespect.
Be carried along. That's my point.
They don't carry you along. You've seen their son. See, you've seen their son. You've married him. Some families will come in and take over the moment he dies.
And then discard you.
They didn't discard you. Now, if you see, we are speaking about the burial practice here. We're not talking about whether you were disinherited or something. If we want to go into that, that's a different matter. But for some people, if you do anything to the body of their son on your own in the name of modernity, you bury in town. Wala go day. For me to be able to bury my dad according to Islamic rites, he himself in his lifetime, over 15 years before he passed, established that this is how I want to end. I'm breaking out from this practice for his family members to say, okay, we release our son to you. If not, I will travel all the way to Edo State. We will do all the rites. Do you understand? So you consider it a disrespect, but it is their custom. You marry them. Why don't you know enough of them?
And collect the disrespect.
So I remember when I was in university, a schoolmate passed, and I think they were Yorubas, and he was buried in Zaria where he had passed. And we had heard that, at the time, we heard that the parents of the child, of that boy, could not be part of the burial because in their culture, it's not right for parents to see their child being buried. Yeah. But imagine if that culture was that even that the child had passed, you just call the parent and say, the child has passed and we have buried the child, and that's it. So what we're talking about, we're saying that if it had been a conversation in the home, you will not have this conversation of saying, I've not seen my husband. You make it, as long as these are the rights, this is how it is done. We'll bring you, and after all, people marry, we'll carry, after all, when people get married, when you're getting married into another different culture, they carry you along. They teach you. Before the wedding, they'll say, oh, this is how we do it, this is what and you do it with a smile on your face. When it comes to departure, why are you doing it differently?
Exactly.
Because it usually just ends up as, you are not part of our family, so don't say anything anymore.
Just mind your
business. The person
business.
that would usually maybe stand up for you and protect you, unfortunately, is the person that has passed. And so nobody feels that they owe you anything. And that's where we're talking about the disrespect and lack of empathy.
Yeah, so before we're going to go on a short break, but when we come back, yes, we'll take phone calls and messages. I'll also talk about the fact that if you want to marry in Africa, are you just going to be focusing on just your husband or your in-laws as well? Stay with us, we'll be right back. Thanks for staying with us. We wanted to open another can of worms.
Yes.
You know.
So I like as Miriam just drop it now that, you know, they would carry you along. But who are they carrying along? The person avoiding the tough conversations? The modern woman who don't want hear? The one who gets shocked? There was one, when I was a child, there was one of my uncles whose body was even taken home and his family were called into practice. And the wife was a non-Afemai woman. She was shocked at the death, the practices, everything for her was against her person. It was, you know, but the family stood their ground. They said she would be seeing spirits if she did not bring his clothes, his plates home. Wow. So there are certain rights that she must return. It's like he's returning. So, you know, some customs believe that their dead do not die. They join their ancestors. They
move on.
So what they call them, there's a word escaping me. We speak in my language. You say the ancestors of the land. One of my grandmother's cousins would say, when I joined my sister, is this how I will explain how I left you people, you know? So they have those practices and beliefs that they do. If you want to marry a religious person, like a Muslim, marry a Muslim who is truly into your ways, so you are not clashing. Not that after you are married, you now come in and say, I'm a Muslim woman, I will not do. And then there's a clash, because they will not leave you. If you want to take your husband for immediate burial, they would insist. You must inform family also. They can give you trouble. You know, sometimes this our love thing is good. It's good. But when you finish, be wise. Be discerning.
How wise can you be in this situation?
Ask tough questions and have tough conversations.
No, you can ask. No,
see,
man
if
now.
the man tell you, say, my people, their ghosts, they fly. Ask how, when, what will happen, what do you want? How do you want to be buried? Tell your people yourself.
What if the man does not even know that the ghost will fly?
Apart from
because we are assuming that the man you're marrying knows all the culture.
No, okay, let's even assume that you people are newly married. These informations have not been shared. At that point, it's still not a disrespect to you. Yes, it will help you deal with it to accept it as people's ways.
As it happens, you know, nobody knows the time of death. Some people are young, as in they are married, and in a few months, God forbid, it happens, and then, you know, they are widowed. But you also have situations where this has happened so many times, is that I marry you because you say you're a Christian or you say you're a Muslim. And then you change. And we have done everything, you know, in Christian, according to Christianity or according to Islam, and then you pass, just like you said, and all of a sudden, people are coming from different places. Whose fault is it?
The person who did not inform you.
The person who did not inform you.
One.
The family members who all of a sudden are coming out of the woodworks and insisting that this is the way we should do. When we were doing wedding, you people came and did it as Christians. We're doing it as Muslims. And all of a sudden, now at the death, where the person himself or herself cannot speak up for themselves, somebody decides how to do it. And for me, I always find that when this happens, it happens to people that they have no respect for. Someone that they do not like, someone that even while that person was alive, they had issues with. Because you would find a particular family member is treated differently from another family member. Yes. One is carried along, the other one is not carried along. One is celebrated, the other is not celebrated. It does not come because someone did not sit down and listen to traditions. If it is part of your culture to sit people down and tell them this is what happens at birth, at death, at weddings, then why would you wait until a time like this?
I like the fact that you said sometimes it comes from a place of wickedness. because some family members would even be nice to you when this man is alive. And then they change when the man dies.
This view to things that some parents will say, my child cannot marry outside my tribe. Because you cannot start to school somebody on practices that are lifelong. Except the person is open-hearted. There's a young lady now who is from a Delta that married my family friend who is Ijebu. I love that she's so open-hearted. She's willing to learn everything. She knows quickly that I don't know these people, but I want to learn. She eats what they eat. She's, you know, some people will come and say, no, I don't.
Do you know that they can still change on her,
just
even if she learns everything?
They can, but see, you try. You try as much as possible to know. What you know cannot shock you.
Hey.
What you know cannot shock you. If you marry some tribes in Ishan, welcome, oh. So what you see, I carefully selected till I married where I want to end up because I saw too many.
Yeah, but that doesn't guarantee anything.
My auntie married an Igbo man far into the depths of the East and had 2 sons. When she divorced, she never saw her kids until they came to search for her. They did not explain. We were everywhere trying to get. We used everything. She didn't see them.
Okay. So we're wrapping up now.
We're hoping that education and, you know, talking
information,
about it.
being more open.
Yeah.
So you that want to learn, be more open to learn. They that are telling you, we receive it. You're not antagonizing what they're telling you and saying they must change it overnight. Now you go change them.
Okay.
Now custom.
That sometimes the person you marry itself does not even know all these things that you're talking about.
That is what I said initially. So the thing is,
when I go stay abroad,
there are no absolutes. Nothing guarantees anything. You can be the nicest, the most listener, listen to,
the most open-hearted,
the free heart-minded, the one that will make everybody feel at home when they come around you. And something happens and the family turns around and begins to show you pepper. So nothing guarantees anything. But what I would like to take out is what Miriam started with. We must begin to pay attention to kind people. So you're not just marrying the man. How kind is their family? How nice are they? How kind are they? Kind people. Your husband is kind. To you. No. If their custom is not kind,
but they'll be kind enough to explain it to you.
To explain it to you and carry you along. I'm not going to bury your husband. I will not tell you after how many years. Thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen. We are leaving.
We are done. Thank you.
Be more open. Okay. Whatever you see in your marriage.